Hi, I wanted to talk about for my latest video, I wanted to talk about something that inevitably happens to everybody who experiences, especially panic attacks, but anxiety disorder in general. And that's embarrassing situations. So I'm going to go over a few of the embarrassing situations that I've encountered over the years, over the last 21 years. And also I'm going to, as the video concludes, I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to deal with it if some of these embarrassing situations occur, which inevitably they're going to, right? The very nature of anxiety spectrum conditions makes it so that they're going to force you to adjust your life. And the reason why they force you to adjust your life is because you're not able to deal with things that normally you would be able to deal with rather easily. So that has led to some definitely led to some embarrassing situations over the years. So one of the first ones I wanted to talk about is while I was driving. And I've had more than one of these over the years. Obviously, I have told you guys in my introductory video and also in my video on panic attacks about my first panic attack occurring while I was driving. And that was very embarrassing because I'd never had anything like that happen before. I was in front of my oldest child and my wife when it occurred. And I ended up in the fetal position for over an hour. So that was very embarrassing. Another time in the car, I was just a passenger. And I thought I was well enough to do a day trip. And a similar thing happened. I had a panic attack. I ended up in the fetal position. And again, I had two of my children with me this time. My poor wife was driving. And you might not think of, well, that's in front of your family, maybe that's not that embarrassing. Well, I think for most men out there, they can identify with the fact that, we want to be the rock. We want to be strong for our family. We want to be able to be somebody that our children can count on, that our wife can count on, for stability and for, calmness maybe in a storm. Well, especially that first 6 years when I was untreated, I was anything but a rock. And these situations that occurred while I was driving or a passenger in a vehicle, they're very embarrassing, very demasculinizing. And, you know that it's not good for your children to see you because children look to both of their parents for security, right? And if they see that one of their parents, you might be able to think back to your childhood. If you saw your mother or father really nervous when you were a child, that no doubt had an effect on you, like, oh, wow, even mom and dad are nervous. So anyways, so you might not think of those situations being incredibly embarrassing, but trust me, they were. And, you always hope that the damage that's been done is not permanent once you get on the road to recovery. And I think I was pretty fortunate in my case, just because of, again, a really supportive wife and just, good fortune of having really wonderful children. Another place that some embarrassing situations arose were at work. On more than one occasion, I had to leave work. I had to leave work and I just would say I wasn't feeling well. And I didn't get specific, obviously. But there was more than one occasion where I just had to leave. And I just tell the supervisor, listen, I have to leave. I'm not feeling well. There was another time at work. I was working in a freezer at the time. And I was on a lift, and I started to have a panic attack. I felt like I was going to black out. So I go running out of the freezer, and I actually had to have a fellow employee go get and retrieve the machine that I was using. And this was really embarrassing. I think shortly afterward, I did leave, saying that I didn't feel well. And those, again, this is a really embarrassing thing. Now, one thing I will tell you about that experience is the gentleman that I was working with, I believe, probably had some either personal history with panic attacks or something like that, or had a relative, because he did seem familiar with what was going on, even though I didn't tell him what was going on. He seemed to be able to surmise. He got the idea of what had happened. So that was another time that something embarrassing happened. Another time, and this is for those of you who have panic disorder, who've had panic attacks, you probably will know that when you're in a situation that you feel like you can't easily remove yourself, that's when you're likely to have one of these situations occur. So, as I've said to you guys, when I'm in a car, especially on a closed access highway, I feel trapped. Another place where an embarrassing thing happened to me one time was while I was getting a haircut. I had to get up. I could feel it building. I had to get up. I think, if I remember correctly, that I told the person who was cutting my hair that I had something in my eye. I got up for 30 seconds to a minute, collected myself enough to be able to let her finish cutting my hair. And I don't know if she actually bought that I had something in my eye or not, but again, it's being stuck in a place where you feel like you can't just flee. For me, also, even still, when I have to have dental work done, I consider myself, pretty good at not having panic attacks here for quite a while. In the last several years, I've really only had a couple here or there. But every time I know that it's a longer dental procedure, it plays with my mind. I feel like, how about if I have a panic attack? And sure enough, if you think like that enough, you will end up having a panic attack, and or at least feeling like you're going to, and it's not any fun. So, I'll do all kinds of things to play mental games where, I put my mind at ease to feel as though I'm not trapped in a certain situation. But anyways, so I had that happen to me while I was getting a haircut. I've almost had it happen to me when I'm at the dentist. There's another thing that's happened is I've walked away from many conversations that I was having, and people probably would think it was odd because I might be having a relatively, engaging conversation with somebody, whether it was at work or around friends or people I know, and I would just kind of remove myself partway through the conversation without it even, without really giving a reason. And of course, this is because I was having that feeling like I was maybe going to have a panic attack. And of course, we know how embarrassing that would be, right? We could never let anybody see us in that situation. And so many times at work, I remember no less than 20 or 30 conversations, mid-conversations, and these aren't earth-shattering conversations, but I am curious as to what some of the people, may have thought when I just, ended the conversation abruptly and walked away. And, this is just the nature of the beast when it comes to generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, social anxiety. I know people who suffer very badly from social anxiety. In fact, there's a funny anecdote I can give on that where they actually dropped a plastic bottle outside the car, and they were unwilling to, they couldn't get themselves because of their social anxiety to grab the bottle that they had dropped. That was a fate worse than death. And I was with this person, and I actually had to get out of the car and retrieve the bottle. But that's, again, these conditions, these anxiety spectrum disorder conditions are like that. There's not a lot of reason or logic going on when it comes to some of these, and that's why we end up having, situations that at least feel really embarrassing go on. But anyways, enough about some of these, some of these things that have happened over the years. How do you recover from this? Something embarrassing happens. How do you recover? Well, the first thing you need to remember is that anxiety spectrum conditions are real. You wouldn't be embarrassed if somebody saw you getting treatment for cancer or getting a cast on a broken leg. So these conditions are as real as a broken leg or cancer. They are. These are signals that are being misinterpreted by your brain that are causing the same reaction that would happen if you're being chased by a bear, if you were on the battlefield fighting a war. And trust me, anybody who would have an issue with, that says it's all in your head, or if they are in the exact same situation, they will act the exact same way. Trust me on this, because those fight or flight chemicals are powerful. They overcome your logical mind. And for whatever reason, if you have generalized anxiety or panic disorder, these things are stuck in the on mode. And you feel like you're being chased by a bear or, under attack on the battlefield all the time. So number one, remember that really these anxiety spectrum conditions are not anything to be embarrassed about. They're real. So remember that if you did have something that felt very embarrassing to you happen, remember that. Also, I could have said this first, get treatment, right? If you're in the state where you're having, repeated panic attacks, or where you feel like it's affecting your life, where you can't carry on conversations, or, any type of heightened anxiety to the point where it's interfering with your life, get treatment. See a mental health professional, get it addressed either through pharmaceutical intervention, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever is recommended by your mental health provider. Follow the program. It's the quickest way to get better quickly. And also, you lose a measure of your self-esteem when you have something embarrassing happen in front of, people that you care about. So if you get treatment, you'll be able to recover your self-esteem more quickly, and you'll be able to put those embarrassing situations in the past. Another thing that's really important to remember, most situations that are really embarrassing to us are not even noticed by neurotypical people. I'd like to think that a lot of those conversations I walked away from, they just figured, he was done talking. if someone's neurotypical, they can't see into your mind. They don't have, the power to read your mind. So most likely they will think something else other than, oh, he or she is having a panic attack, or, oh, they're a Looney Tune or whatever. So most of the time, neurotypical people don't even notice when we walk out of a store fast, or, say something's in our eye when we're getting a haircut or at the dentist, so we can get up out of the chair. They're not going to think anything of it. And the ones that do notice, they probably are dealing with a similar thing themselves. Either that, or they know somebody who has a similar issue. So, there's not anything to bury your head in the sand over here. Most people don't even notice these things that we are so deathly embarrassed by. And the ones that do are probably dealing with a similar issue themselves. And that's why they were intuitive enough to recognize what was going on. And finally, if you do encounter somebody who is, disparaging about a mental health issue that you're having, it's one of two things. Either they're ignorant about mental health issues, and that's a possibility. A lot of neurotypical people, you'll hear them talk to somebody who's depressed and they say, oh, I get down sometimes, just cheer yourself up. That's because they're thinking of depressed as how a neurotypical person gets depressed. Like they're having a bad day, or something bad happened. Maybe even something bad happened. But that's different than clinical depression, where it's almost like you've had your soul removed and you've lost the motivation and the feelings that drive you, that are the passion of your life, that make life worth living. And but they don't understand that. So that's ignorance. That's what you deal with most of the time, are people who are just ignorant about mental health. Other people who are disparaging or say mean things are just jerks, right? Those are people that you don't want to waste your time with. Think about it. If somebody's not well, have you ever had the urge to go and make fun of them? Does that make sense? I've never understood that mentality where if someone's having a problem, pile on. I've never been that way. I wasn't raised that way. And really, when you think about it, what type of a miserable person actually, wants to kick somebody when they're down? That's what I don't let somebody who's like that, who has no empathy, no compassion about your situation, don't even spend time associating with someone like that, because again, they're a negative person. It's probably that they're a miserable person as well. And a lot of the times people who are miserable, they want to project their misery onto you. So anyways, I just wanted to make a short video here on how to deal with situations that arise that can be embarrassing, because they're going to. If you have these conditions, whether it's the perception of something embarrassing in your mind happening, or whether maybe something that was embarrassing really did happen, because it's happened to me, as I've described in this video. But don't let that change your opinion of yourself, because everybody's going through something. And the fact, that you're trying to get up, that you're getting treatment, that you're trying to get better, that's all you can do. That's all anybody with any of these anxiety spectrum conditions can do. So I just want to take this opportunity again to thank you guys so much for watching the videos. Like, share, subscribe. If you know somebody who's experiencing any of these anxiety spectrum mental health conditions, have them check out the channel. Share it with them, or just tell them about it. I think especially people, you know, this is, again, mental health. People do not want to talk about mental health, especially men. And that's why I decided to do this channel, to try to help people who are maybe a little too embarrassed to maybe even acknowledge what's going on, but so that they'll be able to identify it and know how to get it treated. But again, thank you guys so much. And until my next video, take care.